I don't know if you have noticed, but self-improvement is honestly pretty fucked. If you stick with me for the next 15 to 20 minutes, hopefully I can save you 7 years of self-improvement. And maybe, just maybe, we can make self-improvement great again. So, let's get started, shall we? Like many guys, my self-improvement journey first started when I stepped into the gym for the first time. That was 7 years ago. Self-improvement has changed a lot since 2018. Back then, it was just starting to get popular. Today, the world of self-improvement is much, much bigger than what it used to be. There is more content than ever before. There is more people doing self-improvement than ever before. There are more creators getting rich off self-improvement than ever before. As I watched this space expand over the last few years, I also watched self-improvement lose the essence of what it really is. Self-improvement has always been about improving the main areas of your life. These are called the pillars of self-improvement: health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. Everyone wants to live happier, healthier, richer lives with the people that they love and care about. These are, of course, fantastic improvements to aim at. However, in 2024, it feels like health is all about getting jacked. Wealth is all about getting rich online. Relationships is all about sleeping with as many girls as possible. Happiness is about, well, it doesn't matter. Fuck your feelings. In other words, self-improvement has become synonymous with the red pill and the manosphere. And as a person who has never identified in either of those groups, I find it very disheartening seeing so many guys get red pilled and dragged into the shallow end of self-improvement, especially when the deep waters is where the real growth happens. Let me explain. Most of our desires are shallow to begin with. If you're a guy and you have a history of not having any girls in your life, you're not going to be thinking about effective communication styles or attachment styles. You're going to be thinking about, bro, how do I get more girls? You can't go deep because you're not there yet. You need to dive through the shallow waters before you get to the deep water. People tend to criticize small talk quite a lot actually. But if you go too deep too fast with someone that you barely know, you risk making them feel uncomfortable. It's because it's just too much. It feels like there's 6 meters of water above you. There's too much pressure. But if you decrease the rate of change, if you dive more slowly through the depths of the water, you allow the other person more time to adapt to the change in pressure. They don't get uncomfortable and they don't get overwhelmed. I'm using this as an example in particular, and the reason why will become more clear later in the video. As a beginner, you start in the shallow water. Self-improvement creators know this. So guess what the content creator makes? Shallow content. Most self-improvement content is shallow because most people watching YouTube are beginners. Shallow content has the greatest market demand. Unfortunately, when you're a beginner in the shallow end of self-improvement, you are also in a state of unawareness. You have this feeling of dissatisfaction and a desire wanting something more, but you don't really know what you want or what your problem is. I believe it is knowledge and skill that determines your quality of life. All your problems in life could be solved if you knew what your problems are, how to solve them, and you had the skills to execute on it. Do you see where we're going with this? In marketing, there's a concept called the levels of awareness. What do you do as an unaware beginner? You look to social media for answers. You find creators or influencers who seem to have the answers you want. You become problem aware and then solution aware through them. They may have a product or recommend a paid solution for you to buy. With a little persuasion, you become a customer. This general process from a high level is how all businesses work. It's not bad, it's necessary. Your customer cannot buy your product no matter how great it is if they are not aware of their problem, you, and your solution. Don't misunderstand this though. Saying that it is necessary does not mean that it doesn't have the potential to be fraudulent. It absolutely does have that potential. You might have heard the quote, "The people who get rich during a gold rush are not the people digging for gold. It's the people who are selling the shovels." in the self-improvement world. The gold rush is fitness, dating, and online business. And the shovels are the programs and courses. Does that mean that every course made by a creator is a scam? No. A shovel that has proprietary gold-seeking integration that guarantees you millionaire status with very little effort is a scam. A course is a scam if it overpromises and under-delivers. Jeff Nippard is not a scammer for selling me his workout program. Dan Koe is not a scammer for selling me his writing program. I knew what I was buying and they delivered. Contrast this to a video I made about Aman Ghazi a couple years ago. Back then, Aman was running this free event so he could sell his course for social media marketing agencies. And that would be fine if his viewers were signing up and buying the course for social media marketing agencies. They weren't. They were buying the course so they could avoid modern day slavery. It just so happened that social media marketing was included in the course. It's very different marketing. Courses are great. When they deliver on the promise they advertised. When the course is designed well, you receive the instruction manual on how this person achieved the results they achieved. It's a well-structured, distilled learning from their experience and what worked well for them. The downside is because you didn't go through the same process as them, you do not have the same depth of understanding they have. Alex Hormozi famously says he is not worried about the copycats because they might have the recipe, but they do not have the understanding to fix problems when things go wrong. You are still in the shallow end, unaware and looking for more answers. Then you go through the levels of awareness again, getting stuck in the cycle of learning. After going through Dan Koe's course on writing, I spent the last 6 months trying to improve my persuasive writing by using frameworks. But after seeing not much progress, I begin to think maybe his other course about digital economics has the answer that I'm looking for. Of course, I didn't buy that course because I knew that my writing as it is now is not good enough to warrant progress. The answers I am looking for will be found in the work, not in another course. Courses and products are not the only things being sold in self-improvement content. Creators, including myself, are trying to sell you our ideas. I am always trying to sell you my ideas because otherwise, what the fuck am I doing? The game content creators are playing is the game of attracting and holding attention. Since the greatest market size is unaware beginners, the advice has to be shallow because it needs to meet the viewers where they are. Most videos have the same structure. Here's the problem I had, these are the steps I implemented to fix it. There is very little time to go deep on the topic because viewer attention spans have been eroded. The result is a recipe that you follow. I like to think I'm a pretty good cook these days. Although, in the past I relied very heavily on recipes. I didn't have the understanding of why certain ingredients went well with other ingredients, and why others don't. I didn't understand why you had to do things in a particular order and what effect that had. When you're following a recipe, you are simply following it. You don't need to think about the underlying reasoning behind it. My confidence never increased in the kitchen because I wasn't making my own decisions. I wasn't making my own decisions because I didn't know what makes good food. I didn't know what makes good food because all I did was follow recipes. I followed recipes because my confidence was low. Following recipes begets following recipes. Your understanding doesn't deepen. Your confidence doesn't expand. You stay a beginner in the shallow waters. In the self-improvement world, this looks like getting convinced you have problems you don't have. Watching video after video but not doing what you need to do. Living a life according to someone else's recipe, not your own. Bronnie Ware was a palliative care nurse looking after dying patients. She wrote the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And do you know what was the top regret these dying patients had? Not living true to themselves. Not living authentically, following recipes, rules, and instructions instead of creating your own. I say this often in my videos. The real matrix is a framework you construct around yourself. If you're living a life on your own terms, you are free. Escaping the matrix in favor for another matrix is not escaping the matrix. I've come to realize after 7 years of self-improvement, this self-improvement space with all this content online, it's just another matrix. Dating content probably is the worst. We worry about what lines to say, what text to send, what flirting strategies to use. There's an endless amount of dating advice telling us that we need to be a certain way and that all girls are the same. We focus a lot on the small details of the game because a video called The One Hack to Get Her Attracted is a pretty easy video to make. We convince ourselves that the reason why we don't have the success that we want is because we're missing that one piece of key information, and we feel like there is something wrong with us and we don't know enough. These creators are making thousands of videos, millions of hours, about things that just don't matter. All dating content worth listening to could be summarized in a few principles in a single video. And I will make that video once I get my shit together in the dating sense. But finally, we come to the key word in this video: principles. Let's say you want to get better at cooking. So imagine all the knowledge that exists about cooking takes the form of a tree. The tree of knowledge. Recipes and self-improvement content are the leaves of the tree. The leaves are the details of the topic and the instructions to follow. We focus on these because our understanding is not deep enough to recognize what connects the leaves together. We are unaware of the branches. Branches are the principles of cooking. They are the major components of what makes good food good. How to use salt, fat, and acid for flavor. When to add sweetness and umami. How the way you use heat changes the texture of the food, what chemical reactions are involved, and how they impact the food. These basic principles are the branches that extend out to an infinite amount of recipes. That's the benefit of learning principles. Once you know the principles, you don't need the recipes. You can go to your fridge, look what you have, and then whip up something that is nutritious, tasty, and also fast without using a recipe. You learn these few principles that pay you dividends over your entire life. In self-improvement, one leaf might be standing up straight, but the principle would be you get what you give. The first rule in Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, is to stand up straight with your shoulders back. He describes how the neurotransmitter serotonin is used to determine your position in the social hierarchy and how us humans calibrate ourselves with each other. If you perceive yourself to be low in status, others will treat you to be low status, and then you'll believe it more. Serotonin decreases and you get depressed, a negative feedback loop. However, if you present yourself as high status, others will treat you as high status. Then you'll believe you are. Serotonin increases. You become more dominant, happier, a positive feedback loop. You get what you give. You might look a little bit more into evolutionary psychology, and then your understanding deepens even more. You learn the reason why our tribal ancestors outcompeted all other animals. We solved impossible problems because we had the hardware to physically solve the problem and the software to cooperate in large numbers. A deadly combination. Then it clicks. The reason for conformity, agreeableness, shame. Why we are so worried about rejection, why loneliness is so painful, is because our psychology and physiology is orientated to each other for cooperation. Without it, it's game over for us. You get what you give. Then you remember you get what you give sounds a lot like something you heard in your high school physics class. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Remember what I said at the start of the video when I was talking about the rate of change when you dive deep too fast? Rate of change is an application of Newton's third law. Acceleration and deceleration are rates of change. Force is mass times acceleration. It means the greater the rate of change, the greater the applied force, and the greater the force exerted back will be. Let's pretend you have never watched a self-improvement video about dating ever before, but you have a pretty good understanding of these principles we just talked about. Being yourself, doing things you like and interest you will bring people who are like you into your life. Be the version of yourself that you actually like, because you will like the people that will come into your life. Rejection is a stress response to being outcasted by the tribe. A rejection from a girl doesn't put you in any real danger. Start shallow and gradually go deeper. Rate of change is fast enough to show interest, but not so fast to be needy. By understanding the principle of Newton's third law, you are able to orientate yourself authentically, find your people, and manage the early stages of dating. Of course, there is more to it, but those are the big movers. Meeting people you like, asking them out, managing the pacing of the relationship, not too fast, not too slow. All these videos online about dating and self-improvement more generally are the leaves of the tree. They are the behaviors and the instructions guided by the branches, the principles. I think it should be obvious that aiming at the principles, not the details, is a far better approach. You don't tie yourself up in all these fake rules that don't matter. You improve holistically, faster while staying true to yourself. The reason why I'm using dating as an example is because all this dating content has really tied me up into a knot for years. And I'm only now beginning to disentangle myself from it. So it is front of mind when I think about principles. I will make a video about the principles of dating when I have that sorted. And until then, I won't give much more details about it. All of this brings me to two realizations I had when I began learning more about principles. Tim Urban, the author behind the really popular internet blog Wait But Why, wrote about these two principles in his article about reasoning by first principles. I will link it below in the description. The first realization is the reason why you focus so much on the leaves is because you don't know shit. When you are cooking something new for dinner without a recipe, you feel exposed. You become aware just how little you actually know. As your understanding deepens a little bit more, you come to the second realization. The reason why everyone focuses on the leaves so much is because they don't know shit either. Everyone is making it up as they go. There are no rules. There's no one way to do anything. That's actually a pretty scary realization, because it means that this world that we live in, what we believe to be true, is mostly bullshit. Tim argues that most of us, including myself, are cooks, copying each other to one extent or another. Chefs, on the other hand, are rare. They build their reasoning of cooking from scratch. They are not watching YouTube videos, reading cookbooks, or following recipes. They are in the kitchen, inventing, experimenting like a scientist, without the fear of failure. The big difference between a cook and a chef is the chef fears less. The chef looks at principles and carves their own path, ignoring the rules everyone else is focused on. That is the adventure of your life. Self-improvement isn't following some arbitrary rule set by someone that copied someone else. Self-improvement is learning principles about health, wealth, relationships, and happiness, so you can carve your own way through life. Don't aim at doing self-improvement, because what the fuck does that even mean? Instead, aim at trying to understand yourself better and trying to understand the world better. It is knowledge and skill that determines your quality of life. All your problems in life could be solved if you knew what your problem is, how to solve it, and you had the skills to execute on it. By understanding yourself better, you bring awareness to your problems. By understanding the world better, you bring awareness to your solutions. You develop the skill to solve your problems through repetition and experimentation. You're not going to deepen your understanding of yourself or the world if all you consume is shallow information. You need to go deep. You need to go long. The principles I know about myself and about the world did not come from any 10-minute self-improvement video on YouTube. Instead, it came from reading books that interest me. Books about psychology, philosophy, neuroscience, physical science, evolutionary history, economics. The list just goes on because I am very curious about a lot of things. I want to understand how this world works better. It also came from listening to long-form podcasts, again, about things that I'm interested in, like the Lex Fridman podcast and the Modern Wisdom podcast. These principles also came from watching science documentaries, like all the stuff Veritasium produces, or the animated videos by Kurzgesagt. As I'm consuming the content, I'm always hunting for the big ideas, trying to find what the principles are and how they connect to other principles I already know. If you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's an episode where the gang is trapped in a swamp. And as the episode progresses, they realize that this swamp is actually just one giant tree and everything is connected. That's what we're trying to do here with our knowledge of ourselves and also the world. For example, in this video, I took Peterson's idea about sitting up straight with your shoulders back and connected it to Newton's third law. In a previous video, I took what I knew about dopamine and what I knew about storytelling and created a unique perspective that really deepens my understanding. Always hunt for the big ideas and how they connect to other principles you know. Your tree of knowledge about yourself and about the world will grow. Your reasoning develops, your problem-solving ability improves. You fear less, experiment more. You do the repetitions and become skillful. Your life improves your way. And best of all, you do this without getting caught in all the internet bullshit. Here is a rule for life. The less pills that you can take in your life, the better. That includes the blue pill, the red pill, the black pill, and the white pill. Don't take any of them. That's all for today, my friends. If you're not tired and you want to watch another video, then watch this one right here. It is about a principle I learned within the last year, and it has honestly taken a lot of pressure off my 20s. It also complements what we have been talking about in this video quite well. But as always, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Bye.